Mikey was 7 when he ended up in the hospital. He felt very sick at school, and when they took him to the nurse, she looked very worried indeed and called Mikey's mom. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. Mikey's mom took him to the hospital, and there he was rushed straight into surgery. Something Mikey didn't know called an appendix had burst. That night he woke to find his mother by his side, holding his hand. He liked that. His mom was a big-time lawyer, and she often didn't have a lot of time to hold his hand. "Mom," he whispered, "can we go home now?" His mom shook her head and told him he'd have to stay a few days. "But Mom," he protested, "I need Mr. Squiggles." Mr. Squiggles was Mikey's secret weapon against the dark, and he couldn't imagine sleeping without him. His grandmother had given him Mr. Squiggles when he was 4. That was when Mikey's dad left, and he started being afraid of the things that hid in the shadows at the bottom of his bed. His grandmother had stayed with them for 2 whole months to help his mom, and she's helped Mickey a lot too. "This is Mr. Squiggles," Gran had said, holding up a disreputable-looking teddy with a wonky ear and only one eye. "He used to belong to your mom, but now I think you need him more. He's a special bear, a grizzly bear, and you know how fierce they are. He fights nightmares and bad things and shadows under the beds, and he eats them all up." His grandmother patted Mr. Squiggles' fat tummy. "See how fat he is." So that night, Mikey had slept with Mr. Squiggles on his pillow. He woke under Mr. Squiggles' piratical gaze. No shadows and no nightmares. After that, Mikey and Mr. Squiggles were inseparable after dark. Now Mikey was threatened with a night without Mr. Squiggles. His mom said, "I got you your favorite Spider-Man pajamas," and with a smile, she held up Mr. Squiggles. Gran called to remind me. Mikey gave Mr. Squiggles a quick and manly hug and tucked him under the covers. He felt a lot safer now. "Mom, how long do I have to stay?" he asked. "Honey," his mom said gently, "the doctors say that you may have an infection, so you'll be here until they are sure you're okay." The doctors were right. That night, Mikey had a terrible fever, and the next few days were hazy. Day and night were the same to him as he battled the fever, and sometimes he heard someone crying. He thought it was his mom, but on the 3rd day, he saw that the sobbing came from someone on the bed next to his. He tried to sit up, but he was too weak. "Hey," he whispered, "are you okay?" The person stopped crying abruptly, and a soft voice asked fearfully, "Are you the bougie man?" "No," Mikey said firmly. "I'm Mikey. Who are you?" "I'm Dailydose," the voice said. "Why are you crying?" Mikey asked. "I'm afraid," Dailydose whispered. "It's dark." Mikey said, "It's not that dark. It's never really dark here in the hospital, you know. The bougie man hides in the shadows," Dailydose said. "He's going to get me. My sister said so. Aren't you afraid too?" Mikey could tell from her voice that she was very young. "I tell you what," Mikey said, "I'll lend you Mr. Squiggles. He's not just a bear, he's a grizzly, and you know how fierce those are." He made a growling sound and was rewarded with a giggle from the next bed. He continued, "He fights nightmares and bad things and shadows under the beds, and he eats them all up." "You're so lucky," Dailydose said enviously. "My Barbie is afraid and she cries." "I tell you what," Mickey said, "I'll lend you Mr. Squiggles while you're here, Oak. An act of kindness is always rewarded." "But," Dailydose said, "what about you? Won't you be scared?" "No," Mikey said. "I'm 7, you know. Besides, Mr. Squiggles will keep me safe anyway." Mikey sat up carefully, and the stitches at his side twinged. He put his feet on the cold floor and carefully shuffled over to Diddy's bed, Mr. Squiggles in hand. In the half-light, he saw Did's big eyes and a mop of tousled curls. Diddy was tiny. She must be 4 or 5. "Here you go," Mikey said as he handed over his beloved Mr. Squiggles. Diddy took him reverently and immediately hugged him. "Thank you," she whispered. Mr. Squiggles was hard at work because Mikey didn't hear a sound from Dailydose for the rest of the night, or the next 2 nights. The 2 children whiled away the slow time in the hospital talking. Mikey learned that Dailydose was the youngest of 5 children, all girls, and that their mom was a stay-at-home mother. My mom works all the time, Mikey said enviously, and I don't have any sisters or brothers or anything. Dee Dee was sad about his mom, but she assured him he wasn't missing anything by not having sisters. 4 days later, an orderly came around to fetch Mikey for some tests, and when he came back, Dee was gone. Her bed was empty, and sitting there in all his splendor was Mr. Squiggles. There was a note pinned to his fur. The note was addressed to Mikey and said that Dee was going home, and thanked him for the loan of the bear. I know Dee would love to stay in touch, so here is my number so your mom can arrange a play date. Thank you, Mikey, for your kindness to my little daughter. The note was signed, Dee Dee's mom. At the bottom of the paper was a small drawing that showed Mikey and Dee Dee and Mr. Squiggles looking rather scary with big sharp teeth. Dee Dee's work, of course. Mikey gave the note to his mom, and she promised they'd visit Dee Dee as soon as he was well enough. By the end of the week, Mikey had a clean bill of health, and he went home too. He kept asking his mom when she was going to call Dee Dee's mother, but she was always so busy. As soon as Mikey was back home, his mom started working as hard as ever. Please, Mom, Mikey said. Just one phone call. I want to know how Dee Dee is. So his mom called Did's mom, and apparently, the conversation went so well that they were invited to a barbecue at their house that Sunday. Mikey, Dee Dee screamed as soon as she saw him. You're here. She threw herself at Mickey and hugged him, which was very embarrassing, especially because there were a lot of girls watching, pretty girls too. It was a wonderful day. Dee Dee's mom and Mikey's mom got on really well, like best friends. From then on, Mikey and his mom started spending a lot of time with Dee Dee's family. Mikey's mom met Dee Dee's uncle at a birthday party, and the two started dating. Mikey's mom was spending a lot less time at work, and a lot more time with Mikey and looking a lot happier. Privately, Mikey thought it was all Mr. Squiggles' doing, and when his grandmother came to visit, he told her so. I told you he was a special bear, his grandmother said, almost as special as you.